You know, I actually really like this week's episode. I don't know if that's because I'm a Gohan fanboy or what it was, but it probably was that. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. You guys let me know. But I did think this episode was a lot of fun. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing, punch that like button, and hashtag Krillin it in the comments down below for the Gangster Krillin icon that I have here on the channel. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the episode of Dragon Ball Super that we all just watched this week, and we'll talk about next week's episode a little bit. So anyways, large part of the beginning of the episode is Android 17 versus Ribrian. I can't pronounce Ribrian, of course. And it's funny because he appears to be kind of mocking her. He's like, "Oh, warrior of love, I'm fighting for my universe, and go ahead and defeat me if you can. I won't let you beat me." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go all out." And it's just like he's totally mocking her. And Krillin's like, "Yeah, it's funny because Android 17 likes to joke around a lot," which is so funny to me because Android 17, like I've said before, has personality trait issues. He's not a particularly outspoken person, but he does seem to find humor in stuff like that. And the cool thing about it is he never like laughs about anything. So it's funny because just the way that he is. And of course he's mocking her a little bit. Goku's fighting against Rosie, and Rosie seems to have the upper hand, which I thought was interesting too. It's like, Goku, I don't know what he's doing, right? Because he's going in and out of forms. He's doing all this other stuff. It's like, how much stamina does this guy legitimately have at this point? That's what this really is, right? It's a battle of power, yes, but it's also a battle of stamina. How long can you last in this battle royale, which surprisingly has a lot of one-on-one fights? Which is really funny to me. It's like there's like how many warriors in the ring, or there was, and it's like there's a whole lot of one-on-one fights. But that's a different discussion. Either way, Goku seems to be at a disadvantage here, but that's only because he's basically studying her. We know Goku to be the fighting prodigy that he is. He's studying Rosie, and he learns how she fights. She sends a lot of feints with her ki blasts, so it was hard for him to kind of decipher which attacks were real and which ones were fake, or which ones were targeted at him and which ones weren't. So basically, when he figures it out, he pretty much eliminates her. He doesn't actually, he can send her out of commission. He doesn't eliminate her because she's still in the arena. And right before that happens, she's about to get Goku with like a Hellzone grenade, kind of. It pretty much was a Hellzone grenade from Piccolo, which we see Piccolo do that later on in the episode too, which is pretty funny. So she basically is going to get him with that, but Android 17 takes a moment, gets over there, and enacts his barrier and protects him and Goku, which is pretty cool too. It's like, man, Android 17 is... It's funny how he was like multitasking, right? Like he's fighting her, but apparently he's not taking her serious enough to the point where he's able to still kind of keep up with Goku's fight. And notice that Goku could have potentially, air quotes up, potentially have been in trouble there in that scenario. I don't think he would have gotten really too injured. We've seen Goku take worse attacks, right? So I don't think he would have came out of that unscathed, but I don't think he would have come out of that hurt. To be fair, he got dragged through the mud by Kale and came out unscathed, so he probably would have came out of that completely unscratched. But Android 17 saves him. He's like, "Oh, it looks like you're having trouble. You need some help." Goku's like, "Nah, I'm good." I'm like, "Oh, this savage." "Nah, I'm good." It's literally what he said, because you know Goku, the country bumpkin, has a very particular vocabulary, right? So aside from that, we see Gohan. No, not Gohan. Not yet, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, Gohan, forgive the mistake there, fighting against Botamo. And apparently Goku had told Gohan about his fight with Botamo. I can't remember whether or not that was something that they brought up in the show. I feel like it kind of could have been, but I could be mistaken, so you guys can correct me if they ever brought that up. Either way, Goku told Gohan all about his fight with Botamo and basically how to fight him. And I want to take a moment to say, Botamo is actually a cheat code. We talk about how Majin Buu is a massive cheat code, just character-wise, ability-wise. Botamo's ability to basically nullify all incoming damage is like the most broken ability in the show. It is, and you know this because, and I may be exaggerating a little bit as far as most broken in the show, because of course we have time skip and things like that, but it's definitely up there. You know this though because of the fact that every time this character's been in a fight, the only way they can beat him is by knocking him out of bounds. They don't do any damage to him. Gohan sends a full-on Kamehameha to this guy. He's unscratched. Gohan spends so long punching him in the gut that he lifts him off the ground finally. I wonder how heavy Botamo is, if it took him that long to do so. But I don't really know if it has anything to do with how heavy he is or how dense his body is. It's just that his body is basically absorbing those hits. So eventually Gohan gets him up off the ground, and then from there, he has no legs to be able to jump. He has no legs to be able to do all these other maneuvering tactics that would get him out of that scenario. And he's shooting ki blasts out his mouth, and it's like, bro, how can you not? Why didn't you try to swing at him? I don't understand how you couldn't throw a punch. Anyways, so that's, like I said, a broken ability, and Gohan eliminates him, which is pretty cool. See Gohan get his first W of maybe even the Tournament of Power, to be honest. I don't think we've seen too much of Gohan fighting, which is awesome. But of course, after that, I didn't talk about it. I kind of skipped around it, but it was cool seeing the Universe 2, I think Universe 2, what's his name? Yardrat. And Goku's like, yeah, that's their Yardrat there. Because he intertransmissions them away, the Ribrianne and Rosie, and his name is Jamez or Jamez. Either way, it's pretty cool that we're getting some of these names. And speaking of names, the last two competitors from Gawasu's universe, Obuni and Rubalt. Yes, I did take notes this time. You better leave a like for that. They basically go ahead and fight Gohan and Piccolo. Piccolo takes the first punch to the face, but he winds up eliminating Rubalt really quickly. Like I said, with a Hellzone grenade. It's really cool to see the callbacks to these attacks that are nostalgic from the original series. See these characters doing these attacks we haven't seen in a very long time. Now, I think this may be the second time Piccolo's done that in DBS. Either way, once again, it's always nice to see that. And Gohan's fight, of course, is a lot more interesting because Piccolo's fight is just kind of there as like a side thing, because Piccolo basically beats Rubalt so fast that he gets back to watch Gohan fight. And by the way, Goku jumps in and watches the fight too. I kind of talked about that a little bit. So that was interesting, but I do find it like kind of humorous. Like, how are there so many one-on-one fights? How are these characters getting a chance to just stand around? You'd think that people would be frantically fighting each other. I know the arena is really big and stuff, and there's a lot of competitors there still, but it's like they should never get a chance to really just sit there and talk, right? It's funny too because Universe 7 was targeted in the beginning of this. Now they seem to be largely just avoided. Like, people are just literally avoiding them, and it's probably because they realize how powerful they are, and maybe they want to fight them later on. But of course, the real reason is so that we get to see some of these characters do fights and stuff. Like Android 17, you know, it's cool to see him. It's cool to see 18 like a couple episodes ago. Gohan, Piccolo a little bit. So that's the real reason why, so we can get a little bit more interaction with these characters on a more personal level, as opposed to like this whole like group setting like it was earlier in the Tournament of Power, where a whole bunch of people from that one universe with the dogs, the Trio of the Dangers, you know, basically going after Goku and Vegeta alone. So Bergamo and those guys. So that's interesting. But what the cool thing is about Obuni is he's able to basically manipulate his ki in a way to where he sends it off in feints, and Gohan's not able to detect it. So not only can he not detect it, this guy's moving so fast that Gohan is kind of like impartially able to see him. So he's having issues detecting this guy, and what Gohan winds up doing is he basically says, okay, since I can't find you, I'm gonna let you sit here and hit me. I'm gonna absorb the hit, and I'm gonna hit you back. He's countering him. He pulled a Super Vegito from Dokkan. He literally started countering. And that's how he was able to basically get the upper hand. And then it winds up being that Obuni basically used too much energy to continue fighting. He used too much energy to continue fighting, and then Gohan overpowered him. And it was interesting too, because I don't know if that'll have a longer lasting effect, because not much time is passing. Like, we're at 38 minutes now. Not much time has passed. I think this episode was like 2 minutes worth of time. So I do wonder if Gohan will be able to recover from that, because he did take those hits. And even we said, you know, he still is taking damage. So I do wonder if that'll have an issue or an effect, long-lasting effect later on in the Tournament of Power. I don't suspect so, but it's something to kind of like parking lot and come back to and maybe think about later on in the future in a different episode. So aside from that, Gohan sees a locket on the ground. Now, this is where things started to get a little more sentimental, because Obuni was like, hey, I'm fighting for this universe. I have people to protect. And you can kind of really understand that logic, because that's basically what all these universes fighters are doing. They're sitting there fighting for their loved ones. They're fighting for, except for Android 17, he doesn't seem to care. I think he does, but he doesn't seem to. Either way, you know, they're all fighting for a purpose, and it's unfortunate, but Gohan had to harden himself and eliminate Obuni's character. And I think that's a really good character development for him, because it's like, we know him to be this sensitive guy and, you know, very caring person, but at the same time, he's like I'm sorry. I had to eliminate you. And you see that because he sits there and he kind of thinks about the locket, and he sees the locket of Obuni and his family, and he's like, damn, this is... I just, you know, he doesn't say anything. There's no dialogue, but I just imagine him thinking like, man, this is me. This is what I'm trying to protect. You know, Videl and Pan is just like, you know, my family, my brother, my father, all these different things, my mother. And there's some level of personability there. So anyways, that's pretty much it for the actual episode. The next episode preview does feature Super Saiyan God Goku. So that's cool. Don't know why Goku's using that form. I'll probably drop a video on it throughout the course of the week, probably. Maybe on like Friday or Thursday or something like that. Because it's weird. Because Super Saiyan Blue was said to use less power. It's said to be more of a stable form. But in the manga, it has a different iteration between Blue and Red. So it's kind of weird. If we go off manga logic, then it makes sense. If we go off anime logic, it doesn't make any sense, especially when in this tournament power, they're trying to conserve energy. So once again, I'll have to drop a video on that, and I'll get one of my friends to join me for it. So could be pretty cool. Hope you guys enjoy it. Subscribe if you're new. Like I said, if you did like the episode, let me know your favorite part down below. I'd love to hear it. Have an awesome day. Thank you for the support. Tomorrow, I'll be back with more content. Peace out, guys.